Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of AACRAO's Credential Chats. Very excited this week to be joined by AACRAO royalty, President-elect of the AACRAO Board of Directors, Director of Registrar Services at Campbell University School of Law, Dr. Connie Newsome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Well, and I mean, before we start press record here, Connie, you were telling me that that this is stuff that's easy to talk about because you are passionate about it. And as somebody who shares that passion, I'm really excited to hear about, how you got from where you were to where you are, with that passion, because most people don't start passionate. That's something that grows on you in my experience. And,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, Dr. Newsom, if we could go back maybe, and maybe it goes back before this, but I had an opportunity to meet you at the AACRA annual meeting back in April, and you were showing up to some of the conversations and some of the sessions related to micro-credentials, learning employment records, and so kind of what was your on-ramp that got you to say to yourself, I think I'm going to start paying attention to this stuff.
Well, my university, or of course, some people from my university, we met. I want to say it was pre-COVID, to begin exploring the topic of micro credentials, and and well, COVID happened, and it just never came back up, but it remained something in the back of my mind. And so I saw some sessions around the topic at the annual meeting, but life was a bit busier for me at the annual meeting than I was than I was than I knew or was expecting. And I will say that I think it's because it had not completely I had not completely absorbed the fact that I had been elected to be the president-elect for AACRAO's board of directors, and that responsibilities towards that would start at annual meeting 25. I just assumed that they would start after annual meeting 25. And it wasn't a whole lot. It's just that again, my mind was on the VP of at large role that I was in currently, I'm sorry, that I was in at that time, and and I was just focused on that. So at any rate, so I saw some session topics, and I wanted to um go there to begin to get I went to attend some of those to begin to get some rudimentary knowledge because I had none, and be able to bring it back to the university. But like I said, I was able to stop in at some, and instead of being able to attend the entirety of the sessions. So a wonderful thing happened, and I'm not saying this because we are talking, Noah, but a wonderful thing happened in that our paths crossed, and I
Well,
felt
you
like.
have great shoes, Dr. Newsom. I mean, let's be honest, they call attention to path crossing.
That's funny. Thank you. But I do feel like it was a blessing. It was more than coincidental. It was kismet, whatever term you want to use. I just felt like it was an absolute blessing that our paths crossed, because when I uh, realized who you were and the knowledge that you had, it was it was like a connection that I wanted and needed, but had not thought to pray for. Oh my goodness. And so one of the things though that had been on my mind was finding a resource where I could begin to gain some knowledge at a what's what I'm looking for, at a reasonable cost. And majority of the conferences that I had looked at, and I hadn't done a whole lot of research, let me say that, but the majority that I had looked at were, the registration was almost four digits or four digits. And then, of course, you'd have travel and yada, yada, yada. And I just remember mentioning that to you during a brief conversation that we had, and you told me about the Badge Summit happening at University of Colorado, Boulder. And, I think it was three something. I don't even remember, but the point is the registration was very reasonable. And I just got excited. Now, when I remembered though to register for the event, um, I think it was at the beginning. No, we were near the very end of our fiscal year, and I had no more money in my in my in my travel budget. And so I went to our vice dean of administration and the dean of our law school, Dean Leonard, and our vice dean of administration, which is Raven Byrne, and I said, I I need to do this. Please, can I have money to do this? I think it'd be wonderful. Um, I think it'd
And
be a
can I
wonderful.
ask when, like, so can I just cut in real quick, Dr. Newsome? Like,
Yeah,
you, and you were super early for a lot of registrars that you were, in 2019 saying, don't yet get this and so value your vulnerability, saying, didn't know anything, right? But you had a sense that it was important. And
absolutely.
then like it seems like it went like what for you was like where it went from this is important, I need to know about it to I still don't know a lot about it, but I'm starting to learn stuff and like that I'm actually passionate about this. Like, because this is nerdy stuff for people to all of a sudden start feeling passionate about. And so what for you was sort of is it the student-centered piece? I mean, what for you like took it from this is important to this is something I really care about and passionate about?
I s- the fact that I'm very customer service oriented, it
Mm.
is one of my hallmarks. A natural characteristic, what have you. Actually, to the point that we've begun to make that our mark in our department. We are very customer service oriented, and we realize we have different customers, if you will. Of course, we have our learners, we have faculty, we have other administrators, we have staff, and we have external customers as well. And so what hit it for me was knowing that this could be another level of customer service that we could provide to our learners. And our assistant registrar, Vanessa Jackson, had been talking to her about it. And this was after the badge summit. Um, and she was telling me she had uh, pointed me to a chat that was happening in the credential community and exchange, where our current VP of IT, yeah, our current VP of IT on the board of directors for AACRAO, Chris Wang, he had posted in the chat that his institution was beginning to enter into the micro-credentialing space. And for what he described, what Vanessa and I realized was that if not if when we begin to when we as an institution begin to firmly um, uh, enter the micro-credentialing space and begin to make it happen. And I'm thinking that hopefully we will start at the learner level. Um, there's a new requirement that we have for well, at this point, it started in 2024, so it will now be our 2L learners, called the Professional Identity Lecture Series. And so right now, um, this the completion of that requirement will be on their transcript. How excellent would it be that if we were able to turn this into a micro credential that they could put on LinkedIn or what is used now by the Handshake or or their resume, so forth and so on. So that's actually one of the things that I think I think that is one of the pieces that I'm really going to advocate for as we begin to, like I said, to experiment. Now, here's the good thing. When I found out about the Badge Summit and I gained permission to go. And I then wound up emailing our CIO for the that's not true, CFO for the university, and to let her know about the Badge Summit and to ask her to share that email with anyone else who was previously interested because I knew there were a number of people. I just didn't know who they were. And so come to find out, there were at least three representatives from four different departments that the CFO knew of, and so she brought those people in on the conversation, and they were excited to hear about the fact that I was going to attend the summit. No, all of them had schedule conflicts at the time, so they weren't able to go, but they were excited to hear that I was going to attend the summit and bring back some information and as the university, under new leadership, so as the university considers what projects to prioritize in the future, we're hoping that we can get this back on the table.
I think one of the things I love there that we hear so often on Credential Chats with our, ACRAO members and people who are leading out of the office of the registrar is that, you know, one of the things that we do that has nothing to do with badging and micro-credentials is just change management, that the registrar is this convener and connector of dots, that, that you're in this seat like you were to be able to find where these other people were who would have interest in this and to invite them to the table to help you lead on this, I think is, something that a lot of registrars, don't always give ourselves permission to see ourselves as being these really important leaders in that way.
And I will admit that at this point, I've been at the university 10, no, June 16th was 11 years. I, I don't know that I would have been this forward. Um, I don't know, probably my first 5 years. But at this point, I've been here almost over a decade. I have come across many people, made some connections, excuse me, and am pretty comfortable um, promoting collaboration
Yeah.
and communication. And so like I said, I've become very well, I'm also very comfortable in my own skin and in my position, but as importantly, I've become very comfortable in my passion about what we can do to enhance university life for our learners in a university community.
Mm. I mean, that is just such powerful stuff. And yeah, Dr. Newsome, we have probably time for one more question. So something
Sorry.
you brought up that don't know how to apologize. You've been amazing. And I just have this memory from, seeing you at that last conference during an activation we called the LER, Learning and Employment Record Petting Zoo.
Yes.
And it was all about getting people hands-on using the technology. And, one of my favorite moments was just overhearing you during an part of the activation that had no technology, it was totally analog. And I don't remember exactly what you said, but I feel like it was something along the lines of, I get it. And so,
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time, but briefly, could you kind of just share, just what was it that you got that you think that other people, that you would maybe invite other people to get around this micro-credential stuff?
I can't remember the young lady's name, but I think she was from University of Phoenix. I would just love for her to clone herself and be in different places, you know, and set that up, set up that display. So I went over there to the petting zoo on purpose because I wanted to see it. And she explained to me how to move through it. And even with her explanation, I wasn't entirely clear. But I followed her directions. And when I followed her directions and I saw how the imaginary person, the person that was on the card, how going through the process would benefit them in the end, I was like, oh, I got it. And so it was that display and going through that display that for me made the credentialing process clear. Now there are a lot of moving parts, God knows. There are a lot of moving parts to bring it all together, but again, the benefit that it has for the recipient at the
Mm.
resultant benefit is worth it. It's worth it.
It is worth it, I think could almost be the title of this. And I think that, AACRAO has a whole report from a couple years ago called Credential Confusion. And so clearly,
Oh,
we are not hitting the mark on our explanations and not confusing people, right? And so I think that, hearing that what we really need is some paper dolls and just no jargon, just a user journey where we can appreciate this is where we're going.
mhm.
And maybe that's kind of the lesson is that if we can just help make clear where we're going, how we're getting there, and the confusing part gets a whole lot more comfortable for us because we know why we're doing it.
Yes, yes. And yeah, I mean, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm just retelling your story, Dr. Design. Thank you so much for joining us on AACRAO's Credential Chats. She is the Director of Registrar Services at Campbell University School of Law, as well as the President-elect of the AACRAO Board of Directors, Dr. Connie Newsome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And again, thank you for having me. And again, I'm glad that our paths crossed, have crossed. I'm keeping you in my world.
I'm grateful to be in your orbit, Connie, and have a badge-worthy week, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.